Hey everybody, this is John with The Toxic Man. I want to thank you for joining us for this podcast. This is going to be episode number 9. Here at The Toxic Man, we're about traditional masculinity. Not beta boys, not soy boys, but true, real, traditional men. Real men that lead their families, that guide the way, that are about the truth, and not about this, the lies of toxic masculinity. We believe that's a myth, which it is. The left, they'll tell you that toxic masculinity, what I'm saying, is untrue. They say, well, it's about men just not showing their emotion. Men need to show their emotions more. Not necessarily. There are times when men do not need to show their emotions. They need to be in check and control of their emotions. They'll say that men are too aggressive, that boys are too aggressive. Well, it's a lot more dangerous to have boys suppress that aggression, and when they get older, they don't know how to control their aggression or how to use their aggression. They've not been taught. If they're just taught to suppress their aggression, then they will not be able to control their aggression because all they know is suppression, and eventually it's going to overflow and explode into a bad situation. So anyway, that's what we're about. In a nutshell, is traditional masculinity, and we're not following this cultural trend, societal trend of putting masculinity down, and we are just here to push back on that because that's what we need to do every day, is to push back on the left and their trash. So this podcast is actually going to be primarily about the shooting that occurred yesterday outside of Fort Worth, Texas. There was at a church, there was a maniac went in there, and he had a shotgun with him, and it looked like from the video he's possibly wearing some sort of a longer coat, so it was hard to see the shotgun, maybe as he concealed it. However, you can see from the video that there is, he's sitting there and he stands up and he displays the firearm. And it's truly a disturbing video when you watch it. It truly is sad to see this happen. This particular news article that I'm looking at, I'm going to play the video. You can hear the terror in the members' voices and what happens. But this was from a YouTube feed within the church service, I guess, for members that would like to watch it. Maybe they can't go to church, maybe they're homebound, not feeling well, but they can still see their service from their church. But this psychopath stands up and displays his shotgun. One gentleman's probably 10 to 15 feet away. He's sitting down. You can see him reaching onto his right hip, trying to push his coat to get to his firearm. Sadly, he's extremely slow in doing that. So he can't get to his gun fast, or he doesn't get to it quick enough, and the maniac shoots him, and then he shoots another member, and about that time there is pretty much the guy's a hero. His name is Jack Wilson. He's a former FBI agent, and he's really good at shooting, apparently, because he drops this guy from pretty much across the church front to back. But I'm going to play it so you can kind of hear, if you haven't seen this video, hear what's going on. Right now there's 2 people that are deceased. One is critical, and I've not heard a news story yet that said whether the shooter was the critical one or one of the deceased ones. I'm going to say it. He is evil. If he's dead, he was evil, and he needed to be taken out. Because someone, in any case, takes a firearm and uses it as a tool of weapon evil, they need to be removed from this earth. And so he got some holes in them, and he deserved every one that he got. So I'm going to play this, and then we're going to break it down a little bit too, kind of my take on. I put an Instagram video out. It's only a few minutes, but I really didn't get to say too much of what I wanted to. However, I'll give you kind of a my take on it. But you can kind of listen to a little bit right here. He's standing up at this point. He's kind of moving away. He's pulling out the shotgun. And then people start to get down. And the last shot you heard was actually the security, Mr. Wilson, was the one dropping the suspect. Okay. So there were about 6 men in total that ended up drawing their firearms after the initial shots. Mr. Wilson got the quick kill, or at least the shot on him to neutralize them. It's horrendous to see. These are people who've gone to church, and I don't care what religion it is at this point, just because this guy's pure evil. If you're just going to go, these people are going to worship, and then you're going to go into their sanctuary and try to kill them, at least one of them, then you're pure evil, and you needed to be taken out of this earth. And when I watch this, I can't help but think about how in Virginia you have all but about 10 counties now are sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment, because the governor has decided that he's going to come after firearms. They got a fully Democratic legislature, state legislature, Congress, Assembly, whatever you want to call it, and they're now making laws to come after firearms. And there's also been threats of, well, we'll send the National Guard in if the law enforcement doesn't want to go in and take it. I don't know what fool is going to go up to a person's door saying, I'm going to take your guns based on a unconstitutional law, which is really stupid. So that in itself is a problem. If Ralph Northam, the governor, is so brave and so insistent on this, he needs to take his tail out in a group, in a posse, and try and help round up these so evil firearms. These firearms that are so bad for this country. So this is going to be my take on it. Is you have this tool. You have this firearm that's a tool. So the suspect takes his shotgun into the church with the intention of killing people. He's killed at least one, and at least one is critical. Like I said, I don't know at this point if he's the critical one or the dead one. One can only hope that he's the dead one because he's pure evil. However, he uses that weapon as a tool. That weapon didn't get up itself. That weapon didn't attach itself to him and tell him, hey, look, we're going to this church over in White Settlement, Texas, and we're going to go in there and we're going to kill some people. Person who did that was pure evil. He took that shotgun and used it in a way that is meant to hurt, maim, and destroy. Then looking on the flip side of it, Mr. Wilson is carrying a handgun and is part of a church security detail. He takes a similar weapon in the sense of it's a firearm that shoots projectiles intended to damage, shoot targets, whatever the case is. He uses his handgun in a way for good. And that's one thing that the left does not want to talk about. They don't want to talk about when a firearm is used for good. They only want to talk about when it's used for evil, and then leave it at that, and then say, oh, well, we got to take them away. We got to get rid of firearms. In America, that's going to be impossible. Not just on the basis of constitutionality, but on the basis of there are over 300 million guns in this country. It's probably well above that, actually. I mean, because I own multiple firearms, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that own multiple firearms. I know there's plenty of people that own, so it's probably more than that. So you're looking at it, and you have evil using that tool for evil. You have Jack Wilson using that tool for good. That proves the point, whether the left accepts it or not, that proves the point that firearms themselves are not evil. Because if they were evil, Jack Wilson wouldn't have been there and stopped the suspect from killing many more people. So for the left to sit there and say that, well, firearms are evil when you get rid of them, that's a huge lie. It's completely disingenuous, and it's meant to take away our God-given rights to bear and keep firearms. It is extremely important to realize that we need firearms to stop evil in this country. There is evil out there. I don't care what politicians say about this law and that law. They're going to make this law and take this gun and ban that gun. They're full of crap, and they're just seeking power. They really don't care about your safety. If they cared about your safety, and I'm talking even these Republican politicians that want to jump on these red flag laws. I'm saying politicians in general, both parties included, any party included, that wants to take away your firearm really doesn't care about your safety. This incident was done within 6 seconds. A guy shot twice. Mr. Jack Wilson stepped in and stopped it. There was no cop that would be able to get there quick enough to stop him. If there were no other firearms in this building, in this church, there would be a lot more people dead, wounded, and maimed before the police could ever show up. The fact that we had a man there that was willing and competent to carry saved a countless numbers of lives and saved a lot of people from just being wounded in general. So we have Quid Pro Joe, aka Joe Biden. Back in 2017, he criticized the shooter. So I don't know if you remember, back on November 5th, 2017, Sutherland Springs, Texas, there was a church service, and another maniac went in there with some sort of a firearm. I can't remember exactly what he had. If it was a handgun or an AR-15 rifle. However, a man that was living next to the church heard the commotion, heard the gunfire, got his AR-15 and went out and confronted the suspect. I think it was shot at him or shot him, and that caused the suspect to get in his truck and flee, and was later caught by the police down the road. I believe 22 people were killed in that incident, sadly, and it could have been a lot more if it wasn't for that guy. But Joe Biden decided he was going to go criticize that guy's AR-15. He said something about the shooter, but the big problem was to Joe Biden when he was interviewed was that an AR-15 was used to stop the shooter. You shouldn't be carrying that. So he criticizes. He's so dense that he criticizes the AR-15, even though the AR-15 was used to stop the shooter. Is idiotic. It's completely idiotic. So recently, and staying on Quid Pro Joe, there was a law passed in Texas, and that law is a state law that allows guns to be taken into places of worship. So during a Democratic debate that was brought up, and I think it was back in I think it said September. It was back in September, I believe. Um, and he, of course, bashed the law because it was pro-gun and called it, quote, absolutely irrational. So, it is irrational to be able to carry, it was irrational for Mr. Jack Wilson to carry a firearm into the church yesterday as a tool for protection. It was irrational for him to take that weapon, apparently, and because we're looking at causation now, so it's irrational for him to now take. Why did he take it? He took it because there could be evil that could come to hurt the church members, and it was irrational for him to do that. So that would only lead me to believe that Joe Biden believes that it's irrational to protect places of worship with firearms. It was irrational to think that anything was ever going to happen at this church, even though just a couple years before in Sutherland Springs there was a shooting. Even though we've had school shootings in gun-free zones, which, again, the criminals don't care about the legislation. They don't care about the laws. That's what, in fact, makes them criminals. It was irrational to think that. But it looks like to me, ration played in the part of protection for that church. Ration helped keep dozens more people from dying. But this politician tells you that it's irrational to take weapons for safety into a place of worship. I'm sure if he was confronted with how is that irrational, he could not give you a straight answer. He'd give you a political answer that gets off on a rabbit trail in a way to try and get you sidetracked. It's obvious here that the Democratic Party does not truly care about your safety. So I also found this article right before I started this podcast, and Mr. Jack Wilson said that he says he doesn't consider himself a hero, which I'm sure he doesn't. He seems like a pretty down-to-earth guy. However, he was asked, here it is from the article, when asked how he is dealing with killing another man, Wilson said, quote, I don't feel like I killed a human. I killed an evil, and that's how I'm coping with the situation, end of quote. He killed evil. That is 100% correct. Mr. Jack Wilson killed evil, and that evil deserved to die. So it sounds like one of the deceased in this article, now that I'm looking a little bit closer, just from that, it sounds like the suspect is one that's deceased. So it looks like only one of them died in the shooting, which is sad that even one died, but it could have been so many more. But he's right. He killed evil. Evil is very real. Evil doesn't care about laws. Evil doesn't care about your safety. Evil doesn't care about anything but itself. This incident is about two things: psychopaths and protectors. And what is in a man's heart? What is in a man's heart is going to dictate what they do, how they think, how they act, how they react, their life choices. And this maniac, in his heart, he had evil intentions, simply just wanting to hurt, kill, maim, destroy. And then in the heart of Mr. Jack Wilson, you have a man who is a godly man, who chooses to be the sheep wolf and to take care and protect those who are unable to protect themselves. That in itself is part of the definition that we carry here at the Toxic Man. Being a person, a man who is going to put himself in harm's way to fight evil like this, to protect those little ladies, those little old ladies, the older gentlemen in that sanctuary that I could see in the video that couldn't protect themselves. Mr. Jack Wilson's the one who kept that from happening. One thing I want to circle back around to real quick is when you carry your firearm, make sure that you're carrying it and you are going to use it if need be. Make sure that you are ready to get to it. Make sure that you're ready to pull that trigger and to end somebody's life. Are you willing to take another person's life? And you could cope with it in the way that Mr. Jack Wilson is. I mean, he says he killed evil, he didn't kill a human. And honestly, someone who did what this psychopath did, I agree with him. He didn't kill another human, he killed nothing but evil. Evil that needed to be dispatched from this earth. So when you carry, make sure that you're ready to use it. Make sure you're fast, efficient, competent, and ready at any time to put down the evil that walks among us. This is a sad time for those people, but that guy chose it. That guy chose to bring sadness on those people, and it was time for him to end. I know this podcast was a little bit different than what we normally do. However, I thought it was something that needed to be broke down a little bit more, discussed a little bit more than a 3-minute video on Instagram. Again, part of this brand, the Toxic Man, is being a protector and being a leader, and we just want to remember that. And Mr. Jack Wilson is a protector of the sheep. He is a sheepdog. He was ready. He came prepared, and into the situation could have gotten so much worse, so much quicker. Don't expect to see much in the media about this because, as I've said before, this incident, when you watch it, it really shows how a weapon, how evil is out there and uses firearms, and how you have to have good out there to counteract that evil. And to do that, you must have a firearm to fight back against the evilness in this world. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your time. Our sounds, our music is from Shane at studio_933 check him out on Instagram. Give him a follow. I know him personally. He's a good guy. If you have any sounds, anything like that you need made, please at least send him a message. See if he can do something for you, and give him something to do. I know he's trying to really grow his business and his sound studio and everything. Just give him hit him up and say, hey man, can you help me out? I heard about you from the Toxic Man. Let him know that we sent you his way. Thank you for listening. And remember, evil is out there, and it is up to us as toxic men, as the brand is, to be the protectors for those who are weaker than us. Talk to you next time.